So if you didn't know, the ACT has had a full rewrite, and as of September 2025, every student taking the paper and the digital ACT test will have a completely different type of ACT test. So that being said, this video is actually how to approach the math section. So I did a little bit of a rundown in a previous video, and I will link it ideally here below. But that being said, this video is going to address how to do well in the math section and also some of the differences and the changes. And I will also have a link below that includes a free digital download of what resources you need and kind of a checklist of what you need to make sure you know before the ACT math exam. So my name is Rebecca Beard. I own a tutoring company that is local, and we're starting to branch a little bit out online. I offer a ton of ACT and SAT test prep. I personally took the new digital enhanced, whatever you want to call it, version of the ACT multiple times at this point. And even with my computer glitching out constantly, don't even know why, I still got a 33 on that ACT math section. And as in glitching out constantly, every 10 seconds it had a glitch. So I know my stuff, and that's kind of why to listen to me. Okay, so on the ACT Enhanced, or on the old version, it was about 60 questions in the math section. It got progressively, it started kind of easy, and then it got progressively harder. So what they have done is they have shortened the number of questions to 45, and they've made it a little bit longer than a minute per question, which sounds great and cheery, and you're like, yay, and then you realize that it's gotten harder. So that being said, some of the key differences that I have seen, and then some of what's the same. So what is the same is it's a lot of overlapping the same concepts. It's going to be your Algebra 1, your Algebra 2, your geometry, a little bit of stat, especially middle school level stat, and just some other basic functions and solving and all that type of stuff. What is different is on the original or the older ACT test that's 60 questions, and now this 45 question test, is they have slashed off a lot of the easier math questions. So when you used to take the ACT, there was a little bit more of the easy questions, especially in the beginning. Now those are gone. So you do have a couple of what I would say warm-up questions, but it gets really into some real heavy math really, really fast. So that all being said, you have to kind of think through time management and what also you need to know. So kind of in the time management sense, you got a little bit over a minute per question, but realistically, that's kind of a terrible way to go about it if you want to be 29 or plus. And if you didn't know, the ACT is out of 36. So what I have found, what works on this test is to move either one or two ways. For me, I like to take the test backwards, and I start with the hard math and I move backwards from there, and that kind of gets my momentum going. What I also recommend for students, if they do not want to work backwards and tackle the hard problems first, then I suggest they do start at number 1, but they should be planning to do those first 10 problems in about 30 seconds, because you need that time to go ahead and spend a little bit more time on the harder material. Some of the things that I'm seeing that are absolutely needed to know is your math vocabulary. And you're like, math vocabulary, why do I need to know that? I've got it in the list in the free resource I mentioned below. But what you really need to know, and that most students seem to forget, and it's kind of easy, it's mean, median, mode, and range. Those are basic, but people forget integers, rational numbers, imaginary numbers, real numbers. All of those are really heavily incorporated. I've also seen questions on amplitude and also standard deviation. So those are just kind of some loose key things to know. And then all what you need to know on the formulas is pretty similar, -1. They are absolutely obsessed with the arithmetic sequence formula on this test. And if you don't remember what that is, it's pretty much where you have to calculate, say you're given the first 3 terms, it's what is the 99th term? They're absolutely obsessed. There's a ton of graphing calculator programs out there that can help you, but if you do not have that formula memorized or do not have a graphing calculator program, then you're kind of poop out of luck. The first time I took the test, I saw it multiple times. The second time I took the test, I think I only saw it once. And then other things that I am seeing is slightly a little bit more pre-calculus, which is going to make some students sweat. Now, here's my disclaimer. If you have completed Algebra 2 and did fairly well, you're ready for the ACT. That'll be fine. There might be 1 or 2 questions in pre-calc you might struggle, but most of it you will be fine. Some of the pre-calc ones I'm seeing is on sine of x graphs, and kind of understanding those from there. And that's kind of the big ones I am seeing. Another crazy key thing that I am seeing on this test, and I saw it both times and I'm seeing it in the practice test in that big old classic red book, is the law of cosines. If you do not know what that is, you don't really have to be able to solve it, but you have to recognize the pattern. And I'm going to try to pop up some example questions from my book. And then the last kind of key thing that I'm noticing as a trend that is really going to stump students is it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more theoretical math. So the ACT for a long time was very like black and white math, and they still have a lot of that. Like, do you know how to solve a slope and all of that stuff? But I am seeing more questions like this that you are going to have to plug in false numbers and be able to calculate, pivot, and go from there. And some students really, really struggle in the theoretical math side. What that means is you need to understand what the question is asking and what numbers to plug in and how to like pretty much just better understand it. So that all being said, if you are taking this ACT test and you need a little bit of help, we've got resources below. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you are kind of wondering whether you take the SAT or the ACT, it's kind of still a personal preference, but here's my kicker. If you are not a math rock star, then you still need to be taking the ACT. It is still slightly easier than the SAT math. Good luck. Best of studying, and I would love to see you in the chat. And one more thing, if you need to streamline your studying, my favorite resource that we have adopted is an AI ACT platform. I have it below. There is a full free practice test on it. There is obviously like an upgraded paid version that you can choose to do, but I have found it really helpful just to drill in those math concepts. But that being said, good luck.